Hello everyone. Today I am going to connect the Raspberry Pi system with my laptop using the LAN connection. So for that we have here a Raspberry Pi kit, and there is an SD card which is having now the operating system, and I have a card reader. Now this again required to make some modification in the operating system, and I have a Ethernet cable, and I have a power adapter, Raspberry Pi power adapter. So the Ethernet cable that I'm using right now is to connect this Raspberry Pi kit my laptop. So the main purpose here is to avoid a separate display, so that I can access the file system on this Raspberry Pi system remotely using this Ether over the LAN cable. So for that we need to make some initial modification on the system. So we need to configure the IP for this Raspberry Pi kit, so that we will have assign a static IP to this Raspberry Pi kit, and for that we should know what is the IP that is used in our system. So what we are going to do here is we are going to connect this Raspberry Pi kit now, because I need to see the address of this the LAN. So let me connect this and connect the one end of the Ethernet cable to this here, and other end to the system. So that I am going to connect it here. So connect it to the system. Okay. So once you do this, power on this Raspberry Pi kit here. So let me supply, okay, and connect the power supply. So here we are going to connect it. So once you connect this Raspberry Pi kit, so there is a power on indication. Now the operating system will boot up. Now let's see what happens in the system. So on the system you can see here it is actually creating assigning a network here. So as you can see here, it is identifying a network. Now right now I'm not connected to any of the network. Now I'm going to connect it to a local area network. Actually it is identifying the device, so it is not accessed yet. So before that, let's see what is the IP assigned to the system. So what we do is I'm going to open a command prompt here. Open a command prompt. So in the command prompt, just type ipconfig. -all is optional. You can give that if you need, and you can check the IPv4 setting if at all, if it is assigned. See here. Okay, now the network got, you can see here unidentified network is here. So we are going to find out the IP address of my system. So check it up here in the IPv4 setting. So you can see here, it is here. So Ethernet adapter, the local area connection right now. So you can see here the auto configuration IPv4 address is 169.124.106.172. So I am going to connect the Raspberry Pi kit somewhere other than this 172. So you can choose any number between 0 to 255 other than this 172, because this 172 is the address of this system now. So I'm going to fix the IP address of the Raspberry Pi, that's what the static IP, that is as 169.254.106. So let this be as it is. So now what I need to do is I'm going to turn off the Raspberry Pi by removing the SD card. Okay, now you have noted down that IP which is assigned to the system. Now what you do is you can just remove this power here. Remove the power. Now the Raspberry Pi is off. What you can do is you can keep this Ethernet cable, no issues. So what you need to do is you need to remove this SD card. Okay, take out this SD card and put it onto the card reader here and connect it to the system. So let me now connect it to the system. So once you connect it to the system, you can see there is a boot device which is found now. So that actually it contains the operating system. What you can do is you can just open the SD card here. So just open this SD card. So see, this is the file system that is actually which we have created for the Raspberry Pi operating system. In this, you need to open one of the file, that is command line.txt. There is a file called command line cmd-line.txt. Okay, open this file, and here we need to, now in this file command line.txt, don't delete any of this content. Go to the last line of this file. Okay, that is here. So here you just type IP equal to the IP address that you want to assign it to the Raspberry Pi kit. Now we have already seen here in the command line of the we have seen that our system was assigned with an IP address in the IPv4 setting here as here. Okay, which is IPv4 setting. We have seen that 169.254.106.172. So what I am going to do is I am going to now fix the IP other than that last digit. So last 3 digit I am going to replace it with something else. So let me check the IP. Let me set the IP as 169.254.106. Let me put it as 250 as my IP. Okay, so this is what you need to do. So don't hit enter key now, just keep it as it is. Okay, IP equal to 169.254.106.172. it is a system IP, and I am going to connect the Raspberry Pi. I am going to assign the static IP for the Raspberry Pi as 169.254.106.250. only these 3 fields has to be identical. The last field can be of any number other than this 172. Just to save this file, and now the job is done. So we need to now remove this SD card. So just remove this SD card, eject this SD card, and now we can actually access. Now we can load the system. Okay, I have taken the I have made the modification in the cmd-line.txt file. The static IP value is loaded. Now what you need to do is you need to put back this SD card onto this here. So insert it back and connect the Ethernet cable, and now power it. So once you power it, now this Raspberry Pi operating system is SSH enabled. The latest version of the Raspberry Pi comes with SSH enabled. Otherwise, sometimes you may have to create a file without an extension that is SSH. I don't think so this is required nowadays. So you can actually straight away do this modification using static IP settings. So now let's see how we can actually link the Raspberry Pi, and how can we load the Raspberry Pi, access the Raspberry Pi file system on our system. Okay, now what we need to do here is we are going to connect the Raspberry Pi system using SSH, I mean the Ethernet communication. So what we need an application now. Generally there are serial interface application like PuTTY also can be used, or the I'm going to use an application called Mobaxterm. The Mobaxterm is one of the X server tabbed SSC client for the Windows. So you can download this free X server for the window. It is It is easily available, so you can simply download it from the internet, and once you download, you can install the application. So I already have the applications with me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to launch this Mobaxterm. So this is application. I'm going to launch this application here. So this is the Mobaxterm application, which is a client for the Windows operating system in the network. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a session. So in the session, you click on the SSH. So the source shell session, the SSH shell. So now I'm going to connect using the remote host. Okay, now I know that I already have set the static IP as, if you don't remember, please note it down somewhere. So the static IP that you have given it for the Raspberry Pi is here. So we know that last digit what you have set it on the SD card. So that is actually it is 169.254.106 169.254.106.250. that is the IP. So use this IP, and you no need to specify anything, just port setting, let it be 22, and simply say OK. Now you can see that now the window will communicate with the SS. Now it has detected. So the login should be the Pi should be the username, login name. Once you Pi, it will have a password. Password is Raspberry. RASPBERRY. Yes. So okay, we don't need that. Okay, fine. So now this is the Raspberry Pi command window. So as usual, the old Linux operating system, how it appears in a command lines, now similar way it is appearing. You can see now file format here. So this is now actually we are running the Raspberry Pi operating system. Now you can just go to the boot directory here. So cd, you can see here the file system here, see here bin boot dev etc home. So now you can work on the application development on this. So if you want the graphical user interface, so you need to launch it using start LXDE. So you need to give the, so it should be start LXDE. Just type this and launch it. So now you can see that now you will see a graphical user interface appearing as in the Raspberry Pi environment. So you can just watch it here. It's taking some time. Yeah, this is it. So this is your the Raspberry Pi environment. So if you want to get back to the old version, just to go back here, and this is the file system, as you can see here, of your system, Raspberry Pi system. Also you can actually see the time and volume for the Raspberry Pi, and you can also log out here. So if you don't want, just close it and come back to the SSH. So we'll close this with Control C. I have closed the graphical user interface. So if anything is to be worked out here, you can use the command Unix commands to work on this. So this is how you can actually use the SSH link by setting the static IP in the SD card in the command line.txt, command cmd line.txt. You can do this. Okay, thank you.